The King is coming. Can you handle the power that is coming for you? Can you handle the expansion that you are going to experience in this new world? So I'm making this video today because of some recent communications that I've had once again yesterday and today from light beings. I think it has something to do with the 3-eye Atlas object and the things that are happening with the sun. I believe that has something to do with the energy that I felt and the communications I've received. So if you're new to my channel, and I know that there are some people who are relatively new, you may not know many of the experiences that I've had. I haven't talked about a lot of them lately because I haven't felt the need to. But I'm now feeling the need to share my own personal revelations, visions, and experiences that I've gotten directly from interdimensional light beings. So, as you know, in June of 2022, I did CE5, which is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, human-initiated contact with extraterrestrials. And what happened as a result of that completely, totally destroyed my reality and almost destroyed me. And for 2 years, I hid from my channel what was told. I shared a lot of things. You know, you are a probability that this world was coming to an end, that a new world was coming, that, you know, higher dimensional beings existed, all of what that entailed, my experiences, but I didn't tell you for 2 years what they told me. And I finally had to, and this was probably, I think, a year or so ago, and I finally got real and I told everybody the most difficult things about what was told to me. And almost from the beginning, the first thing that I was told was a very powerful light being showed up and said, we want to make you king of planet Earth. And I went, what? What the hell does that even mean? How is it even possible? How can a human being be king of the whole planet? I thought that was absolutely preposterous. And then they said, no, you don't understand. You have always been king. You were king of Earth before, you're king now, and you will be king of Earth again. And I couldn't do anything with that. It was quite obvious that I didn't have any power. I was financially struggling. I was, you know, bumping into old age. I was, you know, I wasn't able to, you know, I was running away from Australia because they kicked me out, and I crash landed here in Florida. I had to pay taxes. I had to do all the normal human things. And the last thing that I felt that I was king of anything. So this was very challenging for me on multiple levels, not just to talk about the absolute bizarre craziness of it all. And of course, the understandable suspicion that I had lost my mind, that I was having a mental breakdown, that I had become delusional. And then I realized that people with narcissistic delusions don't think they're crazy. And I was sure that I had gone crazy. The other thing is that the ETs were telling me things that were coming true, and they were telling me things that I couldn't possibly have known. And when I researched what they told me, it turns out they were 100% right, and I couldn't have possibly known it. So I was stuck with this thing that kept coming back. They kept telling me this. And in fact, they told me, you need to tell your students, your friends, your followers, you need to tell them what we're telling you. I've come to realize that the reason I had to tell people that was not only for my own sanity. By the way, let me be clear. I am not making this claim. I have never once claimed that I was king of anything. I've never made that claim. The only claim that I am making is that it is my belief that I have interpreted telepathic messages from light beings, and my interpretation of that is that I believe that that is what they have told me. So it's interesting that people don't hear that, and we're going to get into some comments. And the reason why we're going to look at some comments that came in just yesterday and today is because I want you to understand that what I have gone through, you have to also go through. You are going to be presented with a truth about yourself in a higher dimensional capacity, your true self. This is the video game. This is the lie. What we're living is the lie. This isn't reality. Your true identity will be so fantastical. It will be so unbelievable. It will be so grandiose that your internal 3D shame-based programming will absolutely flip out. And you will have an extremely difficult time accepting what you're going to be told. But we are now making the shift. 5D is here. We have to shift into it. So the prerequisite for that is you have to accept the truth about yourself. You're going to have your own issue. This one is mine. That's what I've been told. And it gets even more intense. So I've told you about this before, and again, very briefly. Here's the Reader's Digest version. Anybody out there know that reference, the Reader's Digest version? This is the Reader's Digest version of what I was told. What I was told is that at the start of the multiverse, I was a being that came out of the yin-yang being, the mother-father deity. From that, I came out of that. I was their son. They said, we are going to send you, as it turns out, to Earth so you can find out what humans are most afraid of. That's your job, to figure that out. From that, I then came into being as a column of light. I can't remember what color. For some reason, like red or purplish color comes to mind. You were a column of light. And I was a member of a council. There was a council of all these lights, and they got together. And we decided that we were going to make the different worlds that existed. That includes all of the extraterrestrial civilizations and worlds and even other dimensional worlds. We created them. We created them out of our minds in order to give souls, conscious beings, places they could go to experience their consciousness, to experiment and to grow in all kinds of different areas. And so we did this for a long time, and we created very beautiful, wonderful, all of the existing extraterrestrial civilizations, the ones that we now look upon as being much more advanced, much more spiritual, and they are. We created all of those. And then we realized that something was missing. that it was too easy, that we were experiencing all this bliss and all this joy and all this power, but basically we could just snap our fingers, close our eyes, we could create entire multiverses, and it was just getting boring. So we started talking about how to make a lower density world where we would really have to, as souls, really work to condense our power to create more. Now that we talked about all these different worlds, and forgive me, it brings up a lot of feelings. I came up with this idea, and I said, we have to make it really difficult. We have to make it so difficult that there has to be a danger that souls will lose themselves, that the intensity and the sheer, pure intenseness of it, the harshness of it has to be so intense that there has to be a very real danger that souls will lose their connection to themselves. We talked about that for eons, about the benefits and the dangers of that. And I became really convinced this was important. And I said that, listen, this is the only way this is going to work, because if there's any way that people can just, remember who they are, it won't take. They won't learn anything. They won't grow. Here in 3D Earth, you want to get big and strong, you're going to have to go lift some heavy weights. It's going to have to hurt, and you're going to have to push yourself beyond your ability. Otherwise, your muscles won't grow. Same is true with the soul. The soul will not expand in power unless you really push it beyond its limits. And so we debated about this for millennia. And I finally convinced them that this has to be a very real place, there has to be a very real danger, and only the most powerful souls should go there, because there is a real possibility you could lose yourself in it. And then they decided that they were going to go ahead and do that. I then stepped up and I said, I'm going to have to go. And they said, no, you can't do that. You're part of us. We have to watch over it. We have to protect them. And I said, this is my idea. I have to go. And I can't go with any special powers. I have to be just like them. Otherwise, what's the point? And I said, I need to be there to be part of it and to protect it and to do what I can to keep things going in the right direction. And after a lot of discussion, they agreed. And I had a daughter, as it turned out. There was a being that, I don't know how all that worked, how a column of light has a daughter, but I had one. I had a daughter, and she was a goddess. She was a creator goddess. And she came to me and she said, Daddy, I want to go with you. I said, you can't go. It's too dangerous. She said, no, I'm going to go, and I'm going to be the world that you live on. I want to make sure that you're okay, and I want to take care of you. She incarnated as the goddess you know of as Mother Earth. So, this world has gone through multiple different stages of the experiment. And the last two stages that we have experienced was we had a golden age. That was the age of Atlantis. That was this. And during this period, there were human beings, there were demigods, there were titans, there were extraterrestrials, there were spirits, there everything that you read about, Lord of the Rings. There were wizards that lived tens of thousands of years. There were gods, there were demons, there was everything you can imagine, including extraterrestrials, including all of that. It was a golden age, and we lived in a state of flow with the conscious universe and with Mother Earth. And the strategy back then was that since this was my project, I decided to take a hands-on role. And so I incarnated as this guy. And he was human, and he was also God, and he was also beyond all that. He had ultimate authority. He had unlimited power. And this went well for a while. I don't know how long, perhaps thousands of years. It went very well. And I built the pyramids and a lot of other things that are no longer we're aware of, but we had all kinds of crazy, wonderful, amazing technology, and there were spiritual powers. People had spiritual powers. People could use their voices to cut the blocks for the pyramids. They could use sound. They could use their mind. I mean, the level of spiritual power on planet Earth was unbelievable, and the rest of the multiverse was in awe of what we were doing. And my job was to sit on my throne and to surround the earth with my power and keep us all safe. And I started gaining more and more power. My consciousness, my practices, being human and being part God, turned into this scenario where I was gaining more and more and more power all the time. And unfortunately, my human self got a little distracted. And when the time came that the golden age had to end, I wouldn't let it go. I wouldn't let go of my power. I didn't want to see what we had worked so hard to create. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see it die. And so I said, I'm not stopping this. And I started using technology to create a false 5D world. We were already starting to slip down through the different yugas. We were moving away from the galactic center, and our energy was starting to slip. And what was supposed to happen was that I was supposed to leave people with practices so that they could go into a more deeply shamanic state, and they would practice their shamanic technologies and spiritual technologies and meditations, and then when they came out the other side, they would be more spiritual. And instead of doing that, I said, no, I'm going to hold on to this. We're not going to lose this. And many of the higher dimensional civilizations came to me and they said, you can't do this. This isn't sustainable. It's not going to work. You're getting distracted. And I refused to listen to them. I said, nope, this is what I'm going to do, and you can't stop me. I then began to start appropriating technology from other civilizations. I'm not sure to what extent, whether that was through violence or through intimidation or what, but I was doing something that I wasn't supposed to be doing. And I gathered a lot of power and a lot of technology. And as a result of that, many of the elites that up until that time were spiritual humans that were working with me, they became corrupted by the power. They turned and then started appealing to my ego, saying, you don't need these other beings, we're going to do this, we're now the premier. Why do you think that Earth thinks it's the only planet in existence. It's because of what happened during this time. It's 13,000 years ago. I just got hit with energy as I said that. So as a result of that, all kinds of things happened. There was a war on the planet. I ended up fighting with people who became even more corrupt than I was. And the light beings left. All of the higher civilizations that were working with us, they all said, we're out of here. They took their support of me, a lot of their power, they took with them, and they left. And then I was vulnerable, and the corrupt humans that I had corrupted came after me and assassinated me and took over all the technology. They then began to use it in war against other extraterrestrial civilizations. And the higher dimensional gods said, we can't allow this to happen. The experiment has run its course. We now know what happens when you give it one human all of this power. We've now seen what happens. We've learned. And so they came in and they created the flood event, sent comets and blah, blah, blah. What do you think 3i Atlas is? It's not a spaceship. It's an actual, natural object, but it's doing all kinds of crazy things. There's a reason why that's happening. They did that. They sent actual things like comets. And interestingly, the comets were targeted directly at the ice caps in Antarctica, in the Arctic. It's very interesting that happened. Melted the whole thing, and all this water came, flooded the earth, destroyed everything. The actual location of Atlantis is called the Richat structure, R-I-C-H-A-T. Go check it out. Do some research on it. You'll find out it was absolutely leveled. What used to be the center of Earth, the center of all civilization, of all knowledge, was completely flattened. The only thing that we have left to remind us is the pyramids in Egypt. That was the only thing that survived from, one of the only things that survived. I then, because after I was physically killed, my spirit was so demoralized because of the mistakes that I made, that in my guilt, which I'm not proud of, I crashed. I crashed down into the third dimension as far as anybody could go. I completely, totally lost any connection I had to my higher dimensional self. I completely forgot, and I started incarnating as a human and with zero knowledge of who I was. And now here we are today. So what's been happening over the past 3.5 years is I've been being downloaded. They've been waiting for me to wake up. I reached out, did CE5. They zoomed in. That's why my CE5 experiences have been so over the top. And most people don't have anything like that. It's because they had to make up for lost time. And I had to get downloaded all this information about who I was. So yesterday I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I want to know what the good times were like. So I went into meditation and I reached out to my friends, reached out to my advisors, and I said, can you remind me what it was like? And instead of telling me what I wanted to hear, which was how beautiful it was during the Golden Age, they said, oh yeah, we'll tell you more. And they showed me They said, here are 4 of the ships from civilizations that you conquered and stole their technology. And I saw these 4 spaceships, that they showed me. And then they went on to say, you don't realize how powerful you were. They said, you had ultimate power. You had power that reached up beyond all of the dimensions. And you were channeling that down into this demigod human body. And they said, none of us could challenge you. None of us could stop you. You were so powerful. You were so unbelievably powerful. And they showed me again how I fell. So if you know the myth about King Surid and his vision, you can go look it up. Surid, King Surid. That was me. He saw what was coming. And I fell so hard. So why am I sharing that? Because I'm the one that has the judgment about it. I'm the one that judges myself. They don't judge me. They say it was an experiment and it was successful. Oh my God, we learned so much about consciousness. And you sacrificed yourself so that we could have this knowledge. And, now it's time to come home. It's time to come back. It's time to, now we can go back and create an even better golden age than we ever had before, and we need you. And I really struggle with the shame and the guilt. So having said that, I want to go ahead and take a look at some comments that were left, 2 comments in particular. And my reason for pointing out these comments isn't that I'm judging these people. Both of these people left comments in good faith, and they were coming from a conscious place of sincere, good-heartedness. But they don't realize how programmed they are in the shame-based experiment. So I said there have been 2 experiments. Most recent, the one I talked about was an experiment in what happens if you give human beings ultimate power. They found out. The next experiment that followed after that is what happens if you program humans to operate from shame. Will they find their way out? And that's where we've been for the past 13,000 years. That shame-based program experiment has been deleted. I deleted it, I think it was Saturday. We deleted it. It's over. We're now moving into a new Aquarian age. This is what the Aquarian age is all about. So I want to share with you, you most likely think like these people do in this comment. I know I do. So everything that I'm going to point out about their thinking, I'm also talking about myself. But it's incredibly important that we face these things within ourselves and go beyond it, because, it's time to go back to having this kind of power. This time around, I plan on being a little different with how I handle it. But this has to happen. We have to go back to having this power again. You're going to find out your power, and you might be far more powerful than I am. That's the other thing people don't realize. Again, because we have this narcissistic understanding that we think that the earth is the entire universe. And when I say I was king of earth, people say, how can you possibly think that about yourself? And I said, what are you talking about? There are beings out there that run entire universes. They run entire galaxies. This is just one planet out of infinite numbers of planets. And somebody's got to do it. How do you know you're not running 20 planets yourself. It's just, but I understand it. I have the same programming. Anyway, let's take a look at those comments. All right, so let me get to them here. All right, so let me start with the first one here. So this is in response to the video I made, the most recent one where I talked about I shut down 3D Earth. The simulation is over. And then that was the last video meditation we did, the interdimensional meditation. And I manifested this big giant switch and I said, I am ending the 3D Earth simulation. I shut it down. So here's the response to that. This person says, how many participated, or was it a solitary endeavor? We should be able to come together if energy aligns. Be very careful. Some entities can masquerade as beings of love when in fact they are not, even on some of the higher planes. And then, interestingly, he says, thanks for your contributions and for sharing your knowledge and work. All right, so, like I said, this person's coming from an honest, sincere desire to be helpful. But, my friend, and believe me, I understand because I've been there with you. You have no idea how badly you have been programmed by the shame-based latest Earth experiment. So we have to unpack that. So the person says, how many participated, or was it a solitary endeavor? Right there, the assumption is there has to be more than one person. And that's not true. Any one of us has the power to create anything and everything. And you have the power to start and end entire universes. How do I know that? Because you are a holographic projection of Source, of God. People misunderstand this and they say we are rays of God, we are fractals of God. No, you are a holographic projection. That means that you are all that there is of God. You're not part of God. You're not a percentage of God. You are entirely God. So the idea that there has to be more than one person is a fallacy. I did it unilaterally, and I don't regret it. He says, how many participated, or was it a solitary endeavor? We should be able to come together if energy aligns. Here's something else you don't realize what you just said. This is coming from an unconscious assumption. It's not your fault. We've all been programmed into this 3D, limited, shame-based, Abrahamic understanding of God created you, bow down and obey, you're sinful, all that kind of stuff. You said, we should be able to come together if energy aligns. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean I can't do this unless I talk to you first? Because what you're saying is, I wasn't involved. You didn't ask me. If it aligns, we should do it together. In other words, what you're saying is, if it is something spiritual, there has to be a group of us. Now, part of this 3D reality is that we live in groupthink. We get our validation from groups of people. What does everybody else think? This is how the elites are controlling you, because you got to do what everybody else is doing. You get your value. This is why there is such a great term now called virtue signaling, which is where you say and do things that you have been programmed to believe that the group wants you to do and believe. And if you do that, you're then safe. You're part of the group. The assumption is that if you are alone, you are vulnerable, that you should be afraid if you're not part of the group. I know that's a lot to pack into that one sentence, but that's what's in that sentence. We should be able to come together if energy aligns, which means if it's been approved of by the group. And then he says, and this is a complete shift in thinking, but it's all thrown out like it's one thought. We should be able to come together if it aligns. Be very careful. Why? Why do I need to be careful? Some entities can masquerade as beings of love when in fact they are not. According to whom? You throw that out as a fact, as though it's an obvious, well-established fact, a self-evident truth, and it's not. How do you know that? I know that you know that because that is groupthink. That is what is popular in the New Age understanding. That comes from Abrahamic religion, which says that human beings are tiny, they're evil, they're sinful, they are separate from the source, they don't align, and that there is a devil who has more power than you, is evil, wants to consume you, wants to deceive you away from God, and has the power to do so. So in the universe that you live in, there are beings that have power, more power than you, that can deceive you and pull you astray. And that goes directly opposite the truth I am giving you as a base assumption, which is that you are a holographic projection of God, which means that there is nothing more powerful than you. So even if I give you the benefit of the doubt that there are evil beings running around that want to deceive you, the fact that you could be fooled, that an evil being can masquerade as love, and you're so stupid, you're so unaligned that you're going to believe them and they're going to take you down a wrong path, and that you have to be careful. You have to live in this world careful because you don't have any power and some being could lie to you. This is why it's ridiculous, the whole idea of false beings of light. It is absolutely preposterous. It's a non sequitur. And it comes from fear. It comes from cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a great word. It's when you have two opposing thoughts that share the same space and you can't decide which one is true, and they're both true at the same time. The idea that there's a false being of light is cognitive dissonance. And again, it means that you're so stupid that you can't tell the difference between light and dark. And that's not how the world works. And then you go on to say, some entities masquerade as beings of light and when in fact they're not. Even some on the higher planes. And again, I can tell you're new to the channel because we've already talked about that's also impossible. Because on the higher frequencies, the negative feelings can't exist. If they did, it wouldn't be a higher plane. So how can a being on a higher frequency have more lower frequency emotions than you do? Again, it's a non sequitur. It's cognitive dissonance. It's impossible. And it's based on you believing that you are unworthy. Because if this can exist where you live, it means that God doesn't love you. And it means that you aren't protected. And more importantly, it means you're not powerful enough to determine for yourself what is the truth and what is falsehood. And the only way that any negative being can have access to you is if you give it to them based on your desire to stay attached. If you're not attached, you'll know. Why is it there that, women talk about this all the time? I'm too, whatever. I find the wrong guys. Well, if you aren't programmed to be abused, you won't get abused. And you won't get fooled. Women who know their value and have grown up healthy, scumbag comes along, they go, that doesn't sound right. I don't want anything to do with that. You can know. So the idea that a false being of love can come and masquerade, and obviously you're saying that that's what happened to me. So you're saying be careful because they're deceiving you. All you're doing is you're revealing to me the self-devaluing, the self-hating, the fear-based, shame-based programming that you are now spiritualizing onto the world. And then you say, thanks for your contributions and sharing your knowledge and work. For that, you are very welcome. I'm happy to do so. That's my job. So I hope you don't take that personally. You're new to the channel, and these are things we've been talking about for a long time, and I hope that you can hear that. But even if you can't, I know that my followers can. Can you relate to what this person said? If you do relate to what this person said, then like me, I encourage you to come with me and heal from the fear-based, shame-based programming we've encountered. Okay, here's the last comment I'm going to focus on here. So another person new to the channel, they go and find an older video. It says, aliens told me you are the first one. What happened next is crazy. And on the thumbnail, it says, you are the first one. And I talk about what I've already told you, bits and pieces that they told me I was king of Earth. So he says, at least you are aware this sounds narcissistic. This is pretty hard to believe, man. I can't picture the whole world accepting you as their king unless you can demonstrate to everyone what you are saying is true. Now, I know this person came into this with positive intentions, and I'm here to reflect back to you how self-devaluing your programming is. Because what you're projecting onto me, this is about you. You're projecting onto me your experience. So first you say, at least you are aware this sounds narcissistic. There's nothing wrong with that. I said that, and I still say it. It sounds incredibly narcissistic and fantastical and unbelievable. So nothing wrong with that. I am aware, and I'm glad that you're aware that I'm aware. This is pretty hard to believe, man. Yeah, it is. No problem with that. I'm absolutely with you. I thought I had lost my mind. This next part, I can't picture the whole world accepting you as their king. What's amazing to me is that you wrote that, not realizing how incredibly devaluing that is. That you didn't have any self-awareness to limit that. Say, I'm not going to say that. Would you walk up to a woman that you found to be unattractive and go, I can't imagine anybody marrying you? Would you ever do that? Of course you wouldn't. It's okay that you don't want, but the fact that you would, if somebody said that, it just shows that something's really wrong. The fact that you would say that to me with a straight face, thinking that you and I are having a good conversation, is pretty amazing. But the most amazing part is that it's not about me, it's about you. Because again, I never made that claim. I still haven't made that claim. I have never claimed that this is who I am. I have claimed that it is my belief that this is my interpretation of what I experienced as telepathic communications from higher dimensional beings. That's my claim. My claim is this is what they said I was and still am. I haven't made that claim. So the fact that you can't hear that in what I'm saying, I mean, I don't know, maybe I was saying it in a way that sounded like I believed it, but I've never overtly made that claim. In fact, the only claim I've ever made is that this is what I think I heard them say. So the fact that you say that, like I'm saying that is interesting. The fact that you didn't identify with me in the part of me that says, this is crazy, this is my experience. I mean, you could have said, wow, I can't imagine what it must be like to have that experience. No, you said, I can't picture the whole world accepting you as their king. And then it gets better. Then you say, unless, so right there you're saying there is something that would change your ability to see the whole world accepting me as king. You'll go from extreme negative to extreme positive, very dualistic. You'll snap from one to the other, unless you can demonstrate to everyone what you are saying is true. So here's what you said. You said you can't picture the whole world. You didn't say, I can't accept you as king. You said, I can't believe that other people, that the whole world would accept you as king unless you can prove to them what you're saying is true. What does that mean? It means that you also are completely groupthink programmed. It means that you believe you're safe as long as everybody agrees with you. So that means you run around, your value comes from what other people think, what other people say. And you show it because you go from it's impossible in your mind that the whole world would accept me as king. The whole world, not some people, part of the people, half the people, they're all thinking the same. So in your mind, everybody else has the same thought about you. And that can go from complete and total disapproval to 100% approval, like that. If you can prove to them that you are authentic. That's what you're saying. What you're saying is, everybody hates me until I can get them, I can appease them, I can get them to like me based on what I do. I have to do something. So I don't know what demonstrate to everyone what you're saying is true. What does that mean? That I bring down lightning, that I do some magic trick? That my value comes from whatever magic tricks I can do? And again, this isn't about me, it's about you. And so that's why I asked you when I interacted, I said, who told you that you need to prove yourself to them? I'm going to guess. I'm not having a psychic vision, I'm guessing. I'm going to guess it was probably your father, maybe your mother. You had to gain their approval. You had to prove to them by doing something in order to get them to approve of you. Because again, you could have said this very differently. You could have said, at least you're aware this sounds narcissistic. This is pretty hard to believe, man. I can't even imagine what you must be going through having experienced that. And wow, what would that be like even to be king of the whole earth? That sounds really hard to believe. You didn't say that. You said, I can't, you didn't even say, I can't imagine you as king. You said, I can't imagine the whole world accepting you. So based on you, everybody has to accept me in order for it to be real. So whatever it is about you that gives you validity, it doesn't exist until they tell you that you're valuable. And this is shame. That is what shame is. Shame says you don't have the right to exist unless we give it to you. And we're not going to give it to you unless you do what we want. You're going to be beautiful. You're going to be rich, you're going to be powerful, you're going to be talented, you're going to do something that influences us to make us accept you. And if we decide, even if you're a brilliant musician or artist or person, even if your brilliance comes through and we don't see it and we don't accept it, it doesn't exist, it's not valid, and you don't have any worth. So it's interesting that both of these comments come from me talking about acting unilaterally without the approval of the world, without the approval of the shame-based programming, without even my own acceptance of myself. That if I act unilaterally from a place of narcissistic self-valuation, people's first response is, you got to be careful. If you think this way about yourself, you've been deceived by demons and they have more power than you. Your authentic self isn't powerful enough to, and don't think highly of yourself. Think of yourself and do it together. We have to do it together. Be part of the group. Be part of the group think. And hey, careful. You're going to think this about yourself. I can't imagine that people accepting you. The whole world can't possibly accept you. You've got to make sure that you get their approval before you don't have any value in and of yourself. These are the lies. This is what I have had to work through. It has been extremely challenging for me to work through what I call my false humility. And again, why do we think that the earth is the only place in the world that exists? One person being king of planet Earth in the grand scheme of things is nothing. We don't have a problem with people being mayor of a city, being president of an entire country. We don't have a problem with, there's been emperors that have ruled huge parts of the world. We don't have a problem with that. Why should we have a problem with one person ruling over one planet in infinite numbers of planets? I'm not saying this because I like it. I'm just, that's what makes sense. We got to get over this earth-centric narcissism. And again, narcissism, this is the last thing I'll say, because narcissism was brought up. Narcissism is not thinking highly of yourself. That's not narcissism. Narcissism is when you have no sense of self, you have no identity, and you are completely dependent upon what other people say. So it's actually narcissistic if I were to try and prove to other people that I was king of earth. If I needed to get everybody else's approval for me to authentically be king of earth, that would be narcissistic. What the light beings are saying is, it doesn't matter what they think. We see you, and we see that your essence is, you're actually the being that has the ability to surround and protect and guide this planet. We see that in you. It doesn't matter whether I believe it or not, and it's not about whether or not I'm accepted or approved of. And they're not even saying, we approve this of you. They're saying, we see this in you. We can see it. And when you talk to these beings, they're going to do the same thing to you. They're going to tell you something. They're going to tell you something else. There are people that are in control of grids that are controlling multiple universes. There are people that are finding out that they are gods and goddesses of love, like the initiator of love in the universe. That, who's more powerful, the king of earth or the one being that is responsible for all of the love in the universe? You have no idea what is waiting for you. None. And earth, remember, is part of a program. So all that we're saying is that in a higher dimension, I created a program called Planet Earth, and a bunch of people came and are playing the game. You're playing a video game I created. We do it all the time. We go online and we play World of Warcraft. Somebody made that, and millions of people play it and think it's a real reality. All I'm saying is I'm the guy who designed this one. At least that's what they say. How is that unbelievable? And the point isn't about me. I'm not here to make it an argument for me. I honestly don't care. I have no attachment to this. I don't need to be king of anything. I swear to you, I don't. I have no ego attached to this at all. It would be a relief if it turned out that I was nuts. What I'm trying to say is that this is coming for you. That you are going to have your experience of the equivalent of this. You are going to have to face that. You're going to have to get over your own false humility, and you are going to have to expand into that. And if you don't, 5D you won't be able to make it into 5D. You won't be able to expand into it. All right, so that's it, my friends. I love you all. You know what to do, where to go. thunderwizard.com. Go to the shop. If you want to get powerful practices, go to membership and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. Go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com if you want to learn the most powerful energy practices that have been channeled to me and other Taoist masters for 2,000 years. These practices will help you be able to expand out of your self-devaluing, shame-based, third-dimensional matrix programming, which we destroyed on Saturday. So if you're still playing the game, it's been deleted, it's been recalled, it's time to play the new one. It's time to get the upgrade. So what you're going to do, like me, is you're going to get a new avatar. Instead of having this little avatar here, I'm going to upgrade back into this guy, and that's going to be my new avatar. Yours is going to look equally, if not more impressive than mine. I love you all. Please be very good to yourselves. I will see you all very, very soon.